Thank you for coming today. I'm attorney Gloria Allred, and with me is Faith Rodgers. Standing behind her in support of their daughter is Faith's mother and father, Mr. and Ms. Rodgers. I'll be making a statement, Faith will be making a statement, and then we'll both be happy to take any questions. Today I'm here with my client, Faith Rodgers, to respond to statements by Bill Cosby's publicist, Andrew Wyatt, that R. Kelly, who was recently convicted in New York of serious federal crimes, such as racketeering and multiple violations of the Mann Act, was, quote, railroaded, end quote, meaning that Mr. Kelly did not receive a fair trial. I represent 3 of the 5 victims for whom charges were filed and who testified under oath in the criminal case. In addition, I represent 2 other witnesses who also testified in the prosecution's case. There was a 6th victim who was deceased, that is Aaliyah. Faith Rodgers was one of the 5 victims of R. Kelly who testified for the prosecution. Her testimony was very powerful and important in convicting R. Kelly. In addition to Faith, more than 40 witnesses testified under oath for the prosecution, and a mountain of incriminating and corroborating evidence was presented to the jury, including, but not limited to, texts, emails, videos, cell phone records, and flight and business records. Based on the evidence admitted at trial, a jury, after 9 hours of deliberation, decided that R. Kelly was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and that he should be convicted. R. Kelly was not, quote, railroaded, end quote. He was convicted based on the evidence. Mr. Wyatt claimed that R. Kelly's case was an example of, quote, an assault on black men, end quote. He said, quote, this is an assault on successful black men who are doing great things, end quote. Nothing could be farther from the truth. R. Kelly did not do great things when it came to many women and underage girls. Instead, he recruited them using his fame and fortune, isolated them, sexually abused them, indoctrinated them, intimidated them, controlled them, humiliated them, shamed them, punished them, coerced many of them to appear in child pornography videos which he directed and produced, and then threatened them that if they ever revealed what he had done to them, he would release the embarrassing videos and photos which he had taken. In addition to all of that, he failed to disclose to many of his victims that he had genital herpes, and he knowingly transmitted it to them, causing them to suffer from it for the rest of their lives. The jury heard all of this and more, and rightfully convicted R. Kelly. Mr. Kelly had 4 lawyers representing him in his defense in that courtroom every day. But even his small army of lawyers and all of the due process afforded him by the judge could not protect him from the overwhelming evidence admitted against him. Throughout all of this, Faith Rodgers has refused to be intimidated or deterred from testifying against Mr. Kelly. She was determined to tell her truth, despite the lies and attacks upon her. Throughout her long ordeal, including an intense cross-examination by the defense, she has conducted herself with grace, dignity, and courage. After Mr. Kelly's conviction, she remained silent, but today she has decided to speak out. Faith Rodgers will not be silenced because the truth matters. The injustice and harm inflicted on young black women matters. And what happened to Faith Rodgers, a victim of R. Kelly, matters. Fighting against the celebrity and his fame and power takes courage and persistence, and the support of family and others who believe them. Faith Rodgers and other victims have demonstrated that when they become empowered and supported, they can win justice and inspire others. Faith Rodgers will continue to speak her truth, and that is what she is here to do today. And now I present Faith Rodgers.
the journey in telling my truth. There was no real preparation for the harassment, the loss of friends, the days of hating what I saw in the mirror because of online comments, the feeling of loneliness that slept with me every night through it all. But the people I've had physically around me in this journey that felt like a one-woman battle reminded me that the sacrifice I made was not in vain. I hope any young woman following my story will inspire, but especially my young Black peers. To them I say, please do not be afraid to free yourself and speak your truth. In this journey while fighting for myself, I stood against many opinions and lies from those in my own community. But I kept going. Your inner strength will take you to your healing. It was disheartening to see, even years and a second trial later, that the abuser, my abuser, and the abuser of many women is being held up as a victim and even considered to be railroaded. The women who were victims of R. Kelly had many nights of being reminded of their own trauma, which resulted from being abused by him. I hope the conviction makes it a little easier to think about those times. And when you have those nights of anxiety, worry, or just feeling left out because you made the choice to stop your abuser, know that it was not in vain. I pray that instead of pointing the finger, we can learn to take care and truly protect our Black women. I heard Andrew Wyatt, a spokesperson for Bill Cosby, say R. Kelly was railroaded. To me, that term is beyond insulting. After meeting R. Kelly at 19 years old, for that year and a half, he manipulated me for his own enjoyment and sexually abused me and tried to control me. When I made the choice to come forward with my story, he threatened me on multiple occasions that if I continued to go forward with the telling of my truth, he would publish pictures and videos of me. Despite the threats, I continued to tell what happened to me, and as a result, R. Kelly retaliated against me and published those photos. Even though he did this, I refused to back down, and I still testified at trial. R. Kelly did receive a fair trial, and he was convicted based on the evidence. He was not railroaded. Thank you to my parents. Thank you to Gloria Allred. Thank you to Lee Merritt. And thank you to all survivors of abuse who have shared their stories with me, gave me support, and still to this day help me. The greatest gift was not his conviction, but knowing I helped someone else in my shoes. Thank you.
I also want to point out that Mr. Wyatt, I guess approximately a day after he made the statement, which many people attributed to Bill Cosby, since Mr. Wyatt is generally only known as Mr. Cosby's spokesperson, then said, well, that was his own opinion. He was exercising his First Amendment rights. I suppose that was after Mr. Cosby received a great deal of backlash in reference to that statement. And so we'll be happy to take any questions, whether it's by Zoom or anyone who is present. If it's by Zoom, feel free to type in your question, and it will be relayed. Are there any questions? Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy Stone. You've spoken in the past about how when you were faced with this threatening letter, these photos, how it caused you such great stress. Can you just talk about that? I think it was a very difficult.
The question was, I'll just repeat the question, then you answer it, that you had spoken in the past about when you received, and actually, I think it was your attorney representing you in a civil lawsuit, received and transmitted to you a threatening letter, which appeared to be signed by R. Kelly, and threatening to release the naked photos of you. And so your question was?
Well, this was a big deal in the trial. Had a prosecutor saying that one of the reasons that this went on for so long was the conspiracy was because there was a lot of intimidation at play. And you experienced that, I believe, with that letter, and it caused you, I think you're a good example of how that affected us.
How did you feel about it? Is that the question?
I think you mentioned once
and
it caused
did it affect you at the trial? Is that it?
I think you mentioned once that it caused you seizures. Is that right?
So actually
Okay,
not.
here.
So there was a lot of moments I that moment for me, I don't think anybody, just any young woman especially, trying to just figure it out, wants their whole body parts exposed. Like, I woke up to texts and friends from my family, like, you gotta see this, like, so it was one of those moments. It was hard, and it's one of those things that when things are on the internet, you know, it's there for people to see. So that's something that will forever follow me. A lot of people saw my body parts and they don't even know me, so that definitely wasn't a good feeling. And it was one of those reminders that, like, he really didn't want me to talk, but even through all that, like, it just gave me more drive to keep going, because once all my cards are on the table, there's nothing you can really do to me at that point. I've gone through all the embarrassment, everything that's been said about me. There's nothing more you could do to me at that point than what's already been done. So the stress of it all, of course, it caused me anxiety, all types of medical problems. I'm in a much better space now, but through it, in that moment, I didn't know if I was gonna make it through or how I was gonna redeem myself from all this. It's already hard going up against, you know, people's favorite. So it was a humbling experience, and yeah.
Can you just describe your feeling when that verdict came in, when he was convicted? Okay.
The question is, can she describe her feelings when the verdict came in of guilty? Guilty, guilty, guilty.
Guilty, guilty.
All right.
When I got the call from my mom, I woke up, it was a regular day for me, and I said to myself, oh, I forgot. And I said, okay, I'm gonna just wait. And it wasn't within like 30 minutes of me like reminding myself that something big was happening. I got the call from my mom, and then after that, it was just a train of, congratulations. But deep on the inside, it didn't feel like congratulations. Like a phone call, that one call or that one text, it doesn't make everything you went through worth it. But I can definitely say, like, it kind of was, it felt good to have the evidence stamp everything I've been saying. And I no longer have to explain myself with facts are facts. So there's no black and white when it comes to that situation. So that definitely was a weight off my chest.
We have some questions from Zoom.
Yes.
First one is, can we confirm faith's age, please?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question. But the question is from Zoom, and
Yes,
it's what?
can we confirm faith's age, please?
My age of now, I'm
Yeah.
24 years old.
Second question, how did you deal with questions from defense attorneys on cross-examination about why you stayed with Kelly or continued to visit him despite your negative experiences? What do you think of the victim blaming from defense attorneys?
So the question from Zoom is, what did you think of the defense's questioning about why you stayed with Mr. Kelly, and how do you feel about the victim shaming?
Yes.
When they questioned me about that, it wasn't really anything that shook me up too bad, because we do things when we're younger. We have experiences that that person that I was involved with at 19, now at 24, I wouldn't be involved with them. So it really didn't bother me when they were asking me why. That's everyone's question, why. But I've also learned that that number one question of why is why a lot of people don't speak. And at that age, you're taking opinions from everybody around you. And there was nobody around me I really talked to tell me no. Or so if I'm going based off what he thinks of me and what I think of myself at that time, I wasn't the same person. So cross-examination, it was what it was. They definitely tried to tear me down, but I feel like I've literally sat in this for 3 years before surviving R. Kelly, before any of that. So I've had my time to deal with opinions and people questioning me. So the security I have in myself to know that I'm not the same person, and I made a mistake, but I chose to stop him, and I didn't choose to just, okay, he's gonna do me wrong, and I just let it go. I pressed forward so the next person he comes across could even just be aware. To me, there was no clear warning. Everything around him was kind of acceptable. So there comes a point when you have to hold yourself accountable and your abuser. And I did that. Not only did I hold myself accountable, but him.
I would also add to that, the question of why a victim stays is a frequent question and has been testified to by experts in sexual assault and rape in numerous high-profile trials, including this one, including the one involving Harvey Weinstein, and including in the trial of Bill Cosby, that it's a sexual assault rape myth that if someone stays in an abusive relationship that it must not have been abusive. And that's a myth, it's false, and it's false as to survivors of domestic violence as well, many of whom stay. So I just think that the real question is not why they stay, but why the predators do what they do to abuse women. We'll be happy to take another question.
Next question from Zoom.
Next question is from Zoom.
Faith, what does healing look like for you moving forward?
Would you say the question again, please?
Faith, what does healing look like for you moving forward?
Faith, what does healing look like for you moving forward?
Yes.
Moving forward, healing for me looks like, I think, closing this chapter in my life and figuring out what I want to do, who I want to be. I've had a lot of obstacles ahead of me and trying to just exist as an individual in my 20s. I didn't think I would spend the first 4 years of my 20s like this, but now that it's here, I'm trying to tap into the things that I love. I discovered I love to write. That's what I'm good at. So hopefully you'll see me years later successful with this far behind me. Healing is definitely not, there's no guide on how to heal. It's a lot of up and days, a lot of up and down days, a lot of meltdowns. So if I could say, oh, I know exactly what my healing looks like, I'd be lying. I don't.